Hello, darlings. Welcome once again to another episode of Bedtime Stories. My name is Tracy, and I'm your host. And I apologize for the meh look on my face, but I am fairly more than tuckered. I am more than fairly tuckered. I'm a great deal more than fairly tuckered. I'm bushed. I'm worn out. It's been a day. I worked a full day doing hospice aid stuff. I wash those who are close to death for my muggle job, my regular job. And then I have, um, your girl has some hobbies she likes to participate in that have like energetic aspects to them. I do improv. And I needed to eat, and it's been a long day, and I had to go feed my mother because otherwise she won't eat. That's the whole thing. Woo. But I told myself I was going to do this a chapter a night until the thing is done. So that's what we're doing. Welcome to another episode of Bedtime Stories. My name is Tracy, and I'm your host. Tonight we are reading Chapter 2 of Part 1 of I, the Wizard by Dan McKnight. Or, excuse me, the book, the author. He used Daniel McKnight when he wrote this and put it out. But I know him as Dan. He's Dan from Improv. He directs our short form team. And he's okay. He's kind of a grumpy old cuss, but he's okay, I guess. Hi, Dan. Yeah, I'm too autistic and too tired to fib about how I feel about people. And that's just how I am all the time, but it's extra when I'm this tired. Anyway, Chapter 2 of Part 1. When last we saw our heroes, there was some kid, I forgot his name, and this grumpy old wizard named Boaz, and they were headed off to the wizarding school. And the grumpy redheaded, gracious, there was a grumpy redheaded elf making grumpy noises about being left to man the store. So now you're caught up. All right, Chapter 2. We made it to Augury's the next day, shortly after the noon meal. Petch was so nervous, I thought he would vomit. We both entered through the front door of the school, and I made my way directly to the headmaster's office, while Petch veered off somewhere along the way. It was pretty clear that he was looking for a place to lay low. I knocked on Master Vivex's door and heard him say to enter. Walking into his office was like walking back in time. Everything seemed exactly the same as it was when I left. The stacks of books and papers, the layers of dust, and the empty bottles of ink looked like they had been caught up in some kind of time spell. I got down on one knee, bowed my head, and said, "Master." Yes, get up, Bo. I'm glad you got here so quickly. Well, according to Petch, we're late. Ah, Petch. He has a tendency to take things a little too far. Please tell me I didn't look that young when I was here. Bo, I don't think you were ever young, he said, gesturing to a chair in front of his desk. Have a seat. Care for some wine? Absolutely. I took the goblet he handed me and drained it in one go. I held it out, and with a look of disdain, he reluctantly refilled it. Disdain is misspelled, Dan. It should be Disdain, not Distain. Just FYI. Why did you send for me, Master Vivex? I'm afraid I have some bad news, Bo. Rhaenyra is dead, he said quickly. I wanted you to hear it from me rather than by some other means. What? Dead? How? It appears as though he was murdered. When? Must be about a fortnight now. We just got word of it a couple of days ago. I sent Petch to bring you here as soon as I had heard. Do they know who did it? That we do not know. The village sent a rider to us before the sheriff got there. From what I gathered, they believe he was robbed while fishing alone. The rider said that they believe a gatherer did it. A gatherer? Pah! It's not like them to kill. Who did you send? We didn't send anyone. What do you mean you didn't send anyone? We're just a school, an academy with young people. We're not set up to investigate a murder. It's not what we do. Well, it's what I do, I spat. Bo, I would ask you not to interfere. Interfere? He was my best friend. We lived together for 6 years while we went to the academy here. This is something I have to do. I have got to find out who killed him. He would do the same for me, I said. I suggest that you just let the sheriff take care of it. You know that's a laugh. The sheriff doesn't concern himself with what happens in small villages, let alone what happens to a wizard. As long as the crown gets its taxes and grain, the people in the county could die for all they care. We'll be lucky if he investigates at all. I'm sorry, but I did not bring you here to have you go off on some kind of vigilante crusade. That is exactly what I hoped to avoid. I know, Master, but I can't let this go. I have to do something. I can't change your mind, then? No. Very well. But when you get there, you will make it clear to the sheriff that this is your idea. I don't want the academy to be drawn into it. Frankly, Master, I expected a little more from you. Ray was one of us, a brother to all. I stood and turned to go. I am going to go to the kitchens and grab some food for the road. Could you do me a favor and send Petch back to Plowden? Have him tell Lorelei what has happened and where I've gone. That I can do, but Boaz, please be calm. Don't add to the trouble. You know me. Yes, I do. That's why I asked. And that's the end of chapter 2. It was 6 minutes. Oh, what a paltry, tiny little chapter. All right, we're going to go ahead and read chapter 3 because I feel like I was cheating you if I only read you a 6-minute chapter. Gosh, that's gross. I went down to the kitchen. This is chapter 3, by the way. I went down to the kitchen and, much to the dismay of the staff, grabbed a plate and helped myself to some bread, cheese, salted pork, and a bottle of wine. After I ate, I returned to assault the pantry, but this time in more substantial quantities. I filled a bag for the road, 2 skins of water, and 1 of wine. I made sure my horse had been fed and watered, and I made off for Nanon, the village where Rhaenyra had lived. The trip that normally took 2 full days took me only 1.5. I thought of the advice I gave Petch about traveling, but I was sure of my horse, and I knew I could take the strain. Even though I was riding hard, my thoughts went to the last time I saw Ray about a year ago. I was sitting in the kitchen frying bacon for my breakfast when Laurie came in. She said there was a strange man in the store who asked to see me. I asked if she knew what he wanted, but she said she didn't, and more importantly, that she didn't care. I told her I would be out in a minute. I was taking the cast iron skillet off the fire when a loud voice hit me from behind. In a minute? I've come all this way and you're going to make me wait? Why, I turned around and shouted, Ray! We quickly embraced, then held each other at arm's length. Damn, it's good to see you. What are you doing here? A couple of my farmers had to buy some new stock. They wanted me to come with them and check out the animals before they bought them. What do you know about farm animals? I asked. Not a damn thing, but I figured we could stop off here on the way home and I could see your new career. These farmers aren't waiting for you in the store, are they? Nah, they're camping outside of town. Had to keep an eye on their goats. That's good. If you brought those animals in this store, Laurie would skin you. What's the deal with her anyway? Ray asked. An elf? And one that looks like that? Country village life seems to suit you, I said, changing the subject. I'm not going to lie to you. It is a pretty sweet deal. Looking round, he added, You going to ask me if I want a drink or what? Well, let's go to the public house, and I'll tell you all about Laurie. It was getting near dark before we finally stumbled back into the store. Laurie was standing behind the counter and was not at all happy at our drunken return. Ray shot a bleary eye at me and then bravely staggered forward toward Laurie. How about you and me take a trip upstairs and I'll show you my wizard's wand? Laurie furrowed her eyebrows, stepped around the counter and walked up to Ray. I was bracing myself for either a torrent of nasty words or for her fists to fly. Amazingly, she did neither. Instead, she grabbed either side of Ray's head and drew him in close. She surprised him and me by giving him a long, slow, intense kiss. Taking her hands away from Ray's face, she stepped back. Ray turned his head and with a big grin looked back at me. His eyes rolled back into his head and he hit the floor in a heap. Laurie looked at me, folded her arms across her chest, and said, Magic wand indeed. She turned and went to her room upstairs, leaving me alone to carry Ray back to the spare room off the kitchen. The next morning, Ray was in no mood to socialize. I found him at the kitchen table, looking bleary-eyed and haggard. Laurie had set him up with a mug of impotus root tea for his head and some biscuits, but had made herself scarce before I came down. Ray looked up at me and said, "I don't think I can ride." "You can stay here as long as you like," I told him. "Thanks, but I gotta get back to my group. They're probably all packed up and ready to go, and they're waiting for me." "You want me to get Laurie to fix you up with some food for the road?" "Nah, just a skin of water will be fine." I got the water, then helped him onto his horse. I watched him sway in the saddle as he rode out of Plowden. I had been meaning to go see him, but never got around to it. When Rhaenyra first took the appointment as Anon's village wizard, I helped him move and get settled in. It was a nice little village, but it was nothing special. It had a blacksmith, an inn, a church, and a few small shops that pandered to the farmers and womenfolk of the area. And like most all other small villages, an uninhabited sheriff's office. I rode up to the office, got off my horse, and went inside. Surprisingly, behind the desk sat an older woman, furiously working on her knitting. She looked up and asked, "Can I help you with something?" "Is the sheriff in town?" "No," she said curtly, going back to her wool. "And?" "And what?" "When do you expect him?" "Tomorrow, maybe the day after," she huffed. Obviously, her knitting was more important than I was. "That's just great. Listen, my name is Boaz, and I'm here to find out what happened to Rhaenyra." "You from the wizard school?" she asked, as I finally said something to grab her attention. "No, I'm just a friend of his, of Rhaenyra's." "You're wearing wizard's robes. It's a long story." "Fine, have it your way. We saved everything he was wearing. The other things we found from his fishing camp, if you want to see them." "Can you get them for me?" She put down her knitting and got out of her chair, annoyed that she had to do something. She stomped to a cabinet, pulled out a wooden box, and shoved it towards me. It was clear that she wasn't used to doing much. I put the box on the desk and started to rummage through its contents. I pulled out Ray's boots and set them on the floor. Empty skins, fishing gear, and other small items were layered on top of his shirt, pants, and robe, which were folded neatly on the bottom. I held up the shirt, which had a small hole in the center, surrounded by a large blood stain on the front. "Has the sheriff been here since the murder?" She grunted and nodded. "Did he say anything about it?" "No," she said absently, going back to her knitting. "Look," I growled, putting my fists on the desk. "I've been writing for 2 days straight. I'm not in the mood for nonsense. The sheriff has to know something." She slammed her knitting down on the desk and looked at me with an expression that could have melted pig iron. "All I know is what everyone knows. The sheriff doesn't confide in me." "And what does everyone know?" "He was fishing. A gatherer came along and robbed him. He must have been too slow or something and got himself killed." "Not likely," I said absent-mindedly. "Where's his wand?" "Wand? There was no wand. I thought that wizards carried a staff." "We do, but we also carry a wand with us at all times." "Why?" "Why would you do that?" she asked, actually interested in something other than her knitting. "A staff is for big magic, and a wand is for small." "I don't understand." "Well, let's say I wanted to get into a building. I would pick the lock with the wand. I would knock down the door with the staff." "Makes sense, I guess," she said offhandedly, "but that's all we found. Didn't have a money purse with him neither. That's why they figure he was robbed." "Where is he buried?" "They didn't bury him. He was cremated the day after they found him." "Cremated? Did the sheriff get a chance to examine the body?" "No, he didn't get into town until a couple of days after." "Did anyone look at the body?" "The priest did." I put the contents back in the box. "Keep these safe. I want to go over them with the sheriff." "All right, where will you be?" "I'm not sure, but I'll be around." And that's the end of chapter 3. And that puts us at 14 and a half minutes almost, so that's fine. All right, good night. Sleep tight. Don't let the bedbugs bite. And if they do, bite them back. Defend yourself. Have standards. Boundaries. I love you. Good night.